Play. Well, welcome everyone to White Sands Self-Care Community Group. I am your host, Laura Cross, and your resource for self-care, connection, and collaboration. And this beautiful lady that I have with me today, and I'm going to try not to slaughter her name, Urmi. She is Bengali born, or Bengali blood, sorry, Italian born. She's coming to us from Canada. She's a self-published author, a blogger, a speaker, a polyglot, and a glot and a mentor. And I have to admit, I had to look up what polyglot is. So obviously, so you speak more than 3 languages then, is my understanding of that. But she's also an advocate for women's empowerment, and she really enjoys being a promoter of self-investing and personal development. So I am really excited to have her with us today. So Urmi, maybe you can share with us how did you get to that? That's a lot to unravel right there.
That is right. It is a lot to it is a lot that I am doing, but it's all started by following my passion, following my intuitions. I'm someone who's very curious, like natural. I'm very curious as a person, and like it all started with my blog. I think that was my very first step. But I was like, oh, you know what? Let me see how it feels like to have a blog. And I also wanted to work on my writing skills. So I created the blog first. And initially it was a little bit uncomfortable, I have to say, because I never wrote anywhere. I never was public anywhere. So I was very conscious that people will know a little bit about my story. But as I was getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, I started to see that it was actually a very enjoyable process. And then with blog, after that, it was like, oh, you know what about creating a YouTube channel? So then I became, I started to create content on YouTube. And then I had, this urge to write a book, because I always had this, I had a lot to say. So I was like, you know what, let me write this more like in a book format. So that's how I came with the book. And then when it comes to, women's advocate, it was just something that came from, I would say it was something that I always had in me, because of where I come from, because I see a lot of double standards. And I was like, you know what, we have to break this type of biases. We have to make sure that the world is a bit more equal. So that's how I started to advocate for women's empowerment.
Yeah, and you mentioned that as far as what people think they should be and stuff, which is an interesting point, because you created a journey and you've gotten into boxing and you use that. And I know there are more women that box, but that's not normally known as a sport or anything that women would do. How did you get into that?
You're right. It's something that not many women do, unfortunately. I don't know why. But it actually started a long time ago, where I had a friend who was into martial arts, and he used to do Muay Thai, which is sort of like boxing, but it entails like using your full body when you're doing Muay Thai. And then I saw basically my sister also doing Muay Thai. So I was like a little bit curious. I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe let me look into it. Okay. So it started with Muay Thai. I did it for I think 3 months, and then I had to change gym, and I was like, I still want to continue doing like martial arts, or doing like self-defense. So I went into boxing, because what happened is when you do boxing or any type of self-defense class, when you're doing other types of workout, you don't get the same after feeling. You don't get the same boost, you don't get the same energy level, and it's like you're missing something. And so I was like, you know what, I like the feeling that I have when I'm wearing my boxing gloves, because I feel like there is this warrior inside me that just comes out when I'm working out. And so that's how it started. I've been doing it for a couple of months already. And I'm telling you, this is probably the best thing ever. Like, this is the best investment that I have done for myself and for my self-care, because when I go to these classes, yes, I don't see that many women again. I think we're like probably 30 people, and I see probably 6 women. but I also see how similar I am to these people. So you have that sense of like belonging, sense of community. And so that's what I love about boxing. Like for me, it's not a fitness journey. For me, it's more like a journey of being like a stronger, confident woman and shaping my
Okay.
identity as a boxer, basically, or a fighter, or soldier. Yeah.
So it's playing a big part in, like you said, in like something that you're passionate about investing in yourself, that whole personal development, um, self-confidence, I would think would
Yes.
play in there.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Because boxing classes are not like cheap, but
Mhm.
when you see it more as if like an investment, then you're like, you know what, it makes you feel good. You should not be feeling bad about how much you're spending on it. And for me, it's also like a stress releaser, a safe place where, I can be emotionally safe, because I'm just punching bags and you feel really good from that point of view. So I feel like it's a stress releaser. I'm able to like let go of the anger of the day, let go of the stress of the day, my anxiety. So it helps me to be like mentally strong.
Mhm.
And also I feel like boxing helps you a lot with coordination, balance. And there are so many things that you can also apply and transfer in other aspects of your life, which is, for instance, the self-discipline part, which is something that I think a lot of martial arts or self-defense classes teach you, which is, of course, like being a disciplined person. And I'm able to transfer that also in other aspects of my life. And so self-discipline, definitely like better self-esteem, better confidence, and that has helped me a lot with boxing.
So those are a lot of benefits then that you find from it. So it's helping you yourself personally. Would you say it helps you then professionally? Everything else, pretty much everything else that you do, is it kind of all encompassing or?
Yeah, I definitely say it's all like it's encompassing everything, and I don't realize it. I don't think I realize it that it boosts my confidence.
Mhm.
And I also feel like I'm trying to represent like more women in boxing, because even at work I have people asking me, "Oh, you box?" Because they see some boxing gloves and they're like, "Oh, you box?" And they look at me differently. And I feel like it's like also bringing awareness in the society, because usually when you think about boxing, that the first thing that you're thinking is not a woman in a like with boxing gloves. You're thinking actually a man in boxing gloves. So I'm also trying to change that dynamic,
Mhm.
showing that, it's not just a thing for men, it's a thing for everyone. And I think it's something that everyone needs, not just for fitness goals, but it's also for self self-defense, because you never know what can happen. And not that I'm saying you have to go out and punch people, but it helps you to, defend yourself in a situation that you don't want to be. So it has helped me a lot in other aspects of my life, because I feel like I can see the confidence in me, basically. Yeah.
Mhm. So you can feel and see and notice the change. Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I took self-defense classes, and it was funny because umpteen years later, when I was working with a coach who did like self-defense, and he said the first thing I did was like stand. He goes, "You've done this before, because you learn to stand sideways and not like make yourself such a target." I think it provides either way good tools. Like it says, not saying everybody has to do it, but to have some tools or some knowledge of different ways to defend yourself nowadays is not a bad thing either.
And I think it helps you a lot even with your reflex, because you never know. So at least, because you work a lot with reflex when you're doing,
Mhm.
like, you learn different techniques, because you have boxing that people do, which is sort of like an aerobic type of thing, where you're just literally just punching a bag, but you're not learning the techniques. And then you
Right.
have the different boxing style, which is you're learning the technique, you're doing shadow boxing. It's a full workout. You have the warm up, which is like you're working out your full body, like you're doing jumping rope, and then you start for 30 minutes, 35 minutes of like shadow boxing. You're punching, you're learning how to do the jab, the cross. And then of course there is the cool down. And then in those ones, like, you learn actually the techniques of boxing, like this is how you have to box. And then of course if you become good and trained enough, then you can also be on the ring. We actually have a ring. No one actually, like, I think they do some sort of like fights, but nothing severe. And
Uh-huh.
so it's nice. Honestly, like learning the technique has helped me a lot as well. As I even at home, sometimes I'm like practicing with my job, my hook, my cross. Yeah.
That is good. So how you're mostly on Instagram, right?
Mhm.
You do most of your stuff on Instagram. So people that want to know more about this or follow you or get in touch with you, is that the best way, or what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I do have an Instagram account where people can connect with me. I also have LinkedIn, and that's basically my full name. Usually, this is where people approach me the most, is through my LinkedIn account. I do have quite a lot of connections. And of course, I also have a YouTube channel if they want to subscribe to my channel, which is also called Urmi Hossain. And I have a blog, which is called myways.ca. But the main point for them to reach out is definitely like Instagram and LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I will make sure that we put all of those links in there. But yeah, I want to really appreciate you for taking the time and sharing that with people, because that's not something that, you normally think of right off the top of your head, for self-care is
Mhm.
boxing. But before we go, was there anything else that you wanted to share with everybody?
I am a very big advocate of self-investing and taking care of yourself. And I think that like boxing is one thing that every person should try, especially women, because I feel like that we don't have enough representation, especially in like boxing classes, and you'll see the transformation once you start taking a few self-defense classes. So my message here is go and try it out, even though it might be uncomfortable, even though you might feel intimidated, but you will be happy with the results afterwards.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I want to really appreciate you for taking the time to share that with us today. I will make sure all of your links are in the comments so people will know how to connect with you and answer any questions or whatever, because I'm sure some people will probably have questions and we'll connect them with you. But thank you for taking the time and sharing that with us today. And everybody, remember this interview, all the others, if you've ever missed them, you can also go to the White Sand Self Care YouTube channel and you can rewatch this or any of the other interviews we have. This is all about building a community of support, self-care, connection, and collaboration. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.